Welcome, everyone. Today I'm going to present you my open source library, Excellent Migrations, which may one day save your life, or at least a day. Couple words about me. In my personal life, I'm a happy husband and happy father of 2 kids. I work at Fresha. Fresha is a booking platform for wellness and beauty, combined with a marketplace for their customers. From technical point of view, I'd say it's a company that went pretty long journey from Ruby monolith to Elixir microservices, and that was a pretty long journey, but also very interesting journey. A lot of cool stuff going on there. Here's the agenda of my talk. First, I'm going to explain what's the actual problem. I will propose the solution for that. I will also explain how to integrate this library with your code base. I will also tell you how it works underneath. And in case you also want to develop some open source projects, I can also share some tips how to promote it when you want to share it with the rest of the world. So first question, would you run this migration on your production without any hesitation? Do you think it's safe or not? Is it safe? Can you raise your hands? Okay. Yeah, so basically, like most of the questions in the universe, the answer is it depends, and in this case, it depends on the database and on the version of that database. But it can be dangerous because adding a new column with a default can make the database want to fill all those values, which may take a lot of time if the table is pretty big. Yeah, so it becomes safe since those versions. And here's another example of a migration that is looks pretty innocent. It just adds a not null constraint, a very popular one. But again, if the table is pretty big, then basically this causes a lock on the table. So no reads or writes can happen during the time of this migration. So if this table is big enough, the time is significant, and your transactions that touch this table will time out. Your endpoints that use those queries will time out, and that can cause partial or even full downtime of your production. So one of our worst nightmares. So the solution that I'm talking about is a tool that automatically analyzes and your migration files. And gives you hints what may be unsafe, and produces log like this one that you can see. Here's the list of all the checks that can be considered risky or unsafe, and that are currently implemented by Excellent Migrations library. Those operations can either cause downtime of your app, or are destructive. They permanently remove data, or are some kind of a bad practice. Like, for example, adding a JSON column in Postgres. You can do that, of course, but JSON-B is better in every manner, so it's better to use it. Okay, now I will tell you how to integrate it with your application. So basically, there are a couple of ways. I encourage you to check the documentation because they are explained there. However, the one that I recommend the most is using Credo check. Extent migrations provide completely ready to use Credo check. So I guess it's there's a pretty high chance that you already use Credo and that you have it plugged in your continuous integration tool. So by adding just this one line of code, you can enable check of migrations of safety of your migrations on your CI tool. And here's some additional way that you can use the library. Basically, the library gives you rather some hints what can be unsafe. Sometimes you would you rather want to silence a particular warning. You want to tell it, okay, thanks for the tip, but I know what I'm doing, so just leave me alone. So you can add this config comment that will basically silence the warning that I showed previously. As a side note, I chose that it's a comment because my approach was that it's a static analysis tool. So I didn't want its users to be forced to edit their migrations in any way. So you don't have to edit them. You don't have to add any code to them. It's just still just normal regular migration file with typical content, but from time to time you just need to add this special comment, and that's all. There are also two possible configs for the lib. The first one is skip checks, which allows you to, as the name says, skip all the checks from the given list. It's useful in a case when you use newer version of a database and you are sure that something was fixed and it no longer needs to be checked. And another thing is start after, where you can pass timestamp from which migrations will be checked. This is useful. Yeah. This is useful when you want to integrate the lib to a project that already exists and has a lot of migrations that already went to production. That there's no point in checking something that is that was already deployed, even if it caused downtime or something bad happened, because it's done and there's no point for wasting time for checking that. All right, so now I will explain how it works underneath. As I have already said, it's a static code analysis tool, so it doesn't run your code. It also doesn't touch your database. it's unaware of that. All it does, it checks the content of your migration files. So this is a high-level algorithm inside the excellent migrations. So first, it finds all the migration files. Then in parallel, it reads those files. Then it converts it to abstract syntax tree, so that it's basically easier to parse, to withdraw information from such structure. Parsing string, I guess, would be much more troublesome, difficult. When we've got AST, it traverses through this AST. And by using pattern matching, it finds appropriate patterns that correspond to certain database operations, and it produces results that are displayed, for example, in a form of warnings. So here's the example migration that you have seen before. So the file is found. The content is read. We have a string that looks like this. In the next step, it's converted to abstract syntax tree. And in this tree, we are looking for this tuple with modify atom. And this is the piece of code responsible for traversing this AST. So basically how it works is that it gets all of the possible subtrees of this AST. So they are, they come as this code part argument, and then we can, inside this detect fun, we can, it pattern matches it against different things. This is a partial list of those subtrees, just to give you an idea how it looks. Somewhere in the middle you can see the one that we are interested in this case. And this is how this pattern matching looks like. If we find it, when we find this this tuple, we need to check the content of options because it's a keyword, so we can't very easily pattern match it. We need to check if those options contain atom null and with a value false, because it could be null true, which is not unsafe. And on the bottom, you can see the result when it's invoked in a console. And here I would like to share a little experiment that I made. I thought that this matching of AST parts is not really human readable. It's pretty hard to reason about. So I experimented with creating a macro that would convert part of a code that more resembles code from a migration and converts it to AST that needs to be matched against. So this is how it looks, and this is the macro itself. Honestly, I wrote it some time ago as an experiment. It's today it's hard for me to even say what's going on here, but it was fun. It was fun, and if it's interesting to you, there's a draft pull request under this link that you can see. Then I came up with a different approach. I haven't implemented that yet, but maybe I will go this way. The approach to use good old doc tests. So in this case, the code remains unchanged. It's still this semi-human readable AST part. But this doc, what it gives us is that we get a hint what's going on here, and there is an example with a result. So I have a few more ideas how to improve the library. To name a few, I would like to implement a new check that would make sure that the migration is rollbackable. The other one is disabling some checks on a provided, based on provided database name and version. Currently, you can just read docs of the library or your database and check what's safe and explicitly disable given check. But that could be done in a more automatic way. We could argue if, what is better, something explicit or something more automatic, but both solutions can coexist. And I think one of the most important things that I would like to improve is more informative warnings. So adding, let's say, more educational value to the library. Because currently the warnings don't give you much information what happened. They point the exact place in code that needs your attention. However, I think it would be really nice to understand what happened, why certain operation is unsafe, and maybe first of all how to improve it. Currently, this information can be found in the documentation of the library. However, I think it would be nice to have a direct link in the logs or in the warnings. And here are some links to the library. First, of course, repo, hexpm, and the docs with some stats. As far as I know, a couple of companies already use the library. There are some contributors, some pull requests were created, which makes me really happy and thankful to all those people. Yeah, the number of downloads is also makes me smile a bit. However, I'm aware that it's mostly to continuous integration tools, but still I like it. And here are some useful resources. I was strongly inspired by strong migrations, which is a widely adopted Ruby tool. I also very much recommend recipes for safe migrations created by Fly.io and David Bernheisel. Really great place to get more knowledge about safety of migrations and how to fix them. I also found Postgres docs to be quite useful in this topic. Here's a list of some useful places in case you want to create or created open source library and want to share it with the community. So definitely Elixir Slack is quite popular. Elixir Radar or Elixir Weekly newsletters. There's also Reddit for Elixir. Awesome Elixir, which is a list of many different tools from many categories around Elixir. And of course, talk on ElixirConf, definitely recommend it. Also a couple of words, why do open source? If it's basically working for free, doesn't make sense. So I think everyone can have a different answer to that, but I think it's a really nice opportunity for self-development, especially if the topic is something different than you do on your daily basis. It can, of course, improve your portfolio. In case some recruiter asks you to do a take-home assignment, you can say, no thanks, just check my GitHub. And I find it simply fun and quite satisfying, especially if you do something that other people find useful. So definitely I recommend to try open source. And that's all from me. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Artur. We have time for a couple of questions. And a reminder for the people watching us on the stream, you can also ask questions in the conference app. Do I have any questions here in the room? There.
We're here in the next 20 minutes anyway. So, thanks for that. It's a great talk. 2 questions. The first, for those of us unfortunate enough to be using MySQL, most of these were, and those of us that also have a deep love for Postgres too. How many, do you have a way, have you thought about ways that you could possibly build communities around encoding these for the various, I know you'd mentioned for different versions, but also for different servers? I think that would be really valuable to have kind of like a codified consensus of what good migration and good practice looks like. And the second question was just about how you found Credo as a tool to do this, and would you use it again?
Do you mean how I integrated it with Credo?
Did you like using Credo? Was it the right tool for the job?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, it was simple to integrate with. I like Credo in general. I think it's very useful. Yeah, and the check for Credo that is provided with the library, it's the most recommended way by me to integrate with the app, because it's just one-liner, and there's a high chance that you already have Credo in your code base. And the first question, could you reiterate it?
Just
I think that the second one overrode the first one.
I guess
in
to
my brain.
summarize it, like what thoughts or plans do you have to build communities to sort of help codify these practices for different, different servers, different versions of servers, and that sort of thing?
Well.
Or do you?
First of all, this tool supports different databases and no database at all, basically, because it doesn't touch database. It's just works with ecto migrations. And about quality migrations, I think that the job is already done by David Bernheisel with this repo and I think a series of talks and articles on this topic. So this is something that I can recommend.
Thank you. We have a question from the app, and that is, can you use extended migrations in umbrella applications?
Excellent question. Yes, you can. I think we tried that at Fresha because we use this library as well there. Sorry, but I can't remember exactly. But we had some troubles, but it worked eventually.
Then we have more questions over here.
Hey, thanks for the library. It's amazing work. Do you have any checks already in place in your existing list of checks that do things like whether or not your timestamps drop microseconds or not? And if so, would that be a good thing to add? Because that's something that's bitten us quite a bit when we add a timestamp column and it's like, oh shit, we didn't add microseconds, and now our sorting is kind of unexpected.
No, I don't. But pull requests are very welcome.
Okay,
we can of course talk about it.
We have time for one more question.
Hello. Question related to checks. How do you ensure that developers just don't copy paste from previous migrations, that the next not nil is kind of okay? So you showed that the comment disables the credo check. So in Fresha, how do you address that?
So how this comment works? Or?
So you have comment for disabling this credo warning.
Yes.
So in process of Fresha, you have probably pull request. It has some checks, and then person can check those credo warnings, I presume. And then the next step is to just merge or read about it. But if you don't want that.
So how do you decide whether to silence this warning?
Yes, and like lazy developers most likely will copy paste it from previous migration.
It depends on the case, basically. For example, we have this migration that adds not null constraint. Often this migration is unsafe, but if you are sure that, for example, this table is empty or not yet used, so you may not care that it will be it will not be that it will be locked for some time. So basically, extended migrations give you some tips, but you are the one who decides what to do with them, and you need to understand what you are doing.
Thank you so much, Arthur. Please give another big round of applause.
Thank you very much.